but I'm gonna warm them up. I'm your hype guy. I'm gonna hype them up. A lot of you are familiar, if you've seen the little plaque we put on Plumbing and Glass, which is now Easy Plumbing, that our 3 former blacksmiths used to be in that building. One of them was this guy, George Badker. There he is on the right as well. He was, most degree, our last real official blacksmith in Verona. And he was in that building, and that picture is on the plaque we put up on the exterior of it. So, at some point, and this is kind of tough to nail down a date, he moved to North Franklin Street into your little building. I found an article in September 30th, 46, from the State Journal reporting that George Badker had purchased part of the Albert Gust farm. And I know from John and others that that was the farm where North Franklin Street is. So we've got a timeline here, September 46, and then there's another really hard to read article that confirms the purchase in November of 46 of land from George Badker from Albert Gust. John, does this kind of mention your memory of when that may have happened, if you can think back to the 40s?
When the concert was built?
Yeah. Does it feel like a mid-40s thing? That's what
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. It's tough to, I can never be totally sure.
They were pretty popular right after the war, during the war.
And then here is our 1947 Verona Centennial by Alice Kunzman. George is in there, he calls himself a blacksmith. And John remembers there being like an anvil and traditional stuff in your building. So I feel pretty confident saying that was our last blacksmith shop. After he retired, now this was from the Badker family. It didn't have a date, but his grandson thought it was maybe 67, where George Grinstead bought the shop from George Badker. Grinstead, I found out, I think is spelled wrong, because I've been looking for him. I think it's E-A-D or A-E-D, E-A-D. Now here, what I like is it mentions George is a blacksmith, good. It calls George a mechanic.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel a little more confident calling George our last, because Grinstead, oh, Ray, do you remember Grinstead?
I remember George Beck very well because he came out to the farm and chewed our horses.
He showed your horses at the farm?
At the farm, yep.
And can you, just so people know you, where was your farm?
Locust Drive.
Yeah, the little yellow one.
Yeah, down here on Locust Drive. My brother's
Working?
farm now.
Okay. Do you remember George Grinstead at all?
I do.
And
Real well.
does this, do people know, does 67 feel like it makes sense for when he took over? That seemed kind of late for me.
I'm gonna tell you a story.
Ray Herthel, by the way.
Anyway, former Peters had a business anyway. Ernie Feller had the business first, and he had to go to the service, and former Peter said, I'll run the business for you. When you come out of the service, you can have it back. And he got so mad at him, he said, I like the business here. He said, you go someplace else. So that's when Ernie Feller bought the place across from the town pump. They bought it. It was tore down now, you know, but.
Yeah. Is the chicken story true? Is that Ernie Feller, did he have a chicken?
Oh, yeah.
You remember the chicken? Did you get pecked by the chicken? You did? But does the 67 seem like it makes sense? John, does that it seem
I'm thinking, it could have been a little before that.
a little before? I thought this seemed kind of late. Because George Badker died just a year and a half later.
I spent a lot of time over there. My in-laws lived next door,
Yeah.
in the house next door. So every time I was over there, if George was there, or later when Grinstead was there, I would be there too.
What year do you definitely remember Grinstead being there? Like, what's the earliest year you think you can nail down?
Well, if, earliest, I would say about 1960.
Okay. And this, I could not find this article, and it was his grandson who thought it might have been 67, so I'm,
George lived on Gilroy Street.
George Grinstead did?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was on the village board at one time too, I remember.
Oh, Grinstead was on the village board.
I thought it was, I may be totally wrong on this, but you could check it. I thought it was Grimm with an M, but I may be wrong on that.
Oh, might be Grimstead?
I'm not sure. But he
Okay.
was on the village board, and as John said, he lived on Pale White Street.
Thanks. Yeah, so at some point, your guys' shop, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have a story. I remember we came from the Eddie Meyer farm outside Verona. And I remember my dad bringing in the mower sickle blades that went back and forth. You cut the alfalfa down.
Yeah.
But I remember taking them down there and then he would sharpen them, Grinstead would, but he'd write your name in chalk on the teeth. So, you know, they're laying up against the wall with
Yeah.
all these farmers' names. but, you know, that's how you identify. You sharpen them and come back a couple days later and you pick them up. And
Yeah.
this was
What was your dad's name?
Goodle Gergie.
Yep.
Thanks, Randy.
Yep.
A lot of memories. Cool, thanks everyone. And then I just wanted to mention that we looked at this building around 2019 because I saw it was for sale. And I told you guys beforehand, I had a very bad feeling. I'm like, someone's gonna buy this lot, tear this thing down and put apartments or something on it. And I was like, maybe we can make it a museum. I peeked in the windows, I was like, oh, hell no. You'll see why in a second. But someone pointed out to me, Eric Omley pointed out, Eric, yeah, I didn't realize what a Tracti building was. So Tracti was like another Quonset that started in the 1900s. They have a website with their history on it. They were making these even before World War II, but they said that when World War II happened, Quonset huts became so popular afterwards that they changed their roof to be curved like a Quonset hut. So, I mean, I call it Quonset. Officially, the Tracti brothers. This was on the old door. I don't know if you guys are into that history or something, but anyway, sorry. Then what happens? So a couple of years ago, this guy comes into the picture. That's you, right?
That's me.
That's you. We're good at finding old pictures. It's what we do. It's a service we provide for free. John graduated with my brother, Jeremy, in '94. Did you know Jeremy, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
You did? Cool. We're very different, us two. There he is. Played some hockey. I thought you'd enjoy this. Brad, I could not find any pictures of you. I don't know.
He's from Middleton, so.
Middleton. Okay, I'll get back to you on that. And that's actually it. If you guys want to come up, I've got, come on guys, you want to come up and, that's all I had for history of your shop. Give it a second. So you got to stand about 6 feet apart, not because of COVID, but because the microphones will feed back. Here you go. And I'll let you know if you need to talk louder or quieter.
Okay.
Should we turn on some, do you guys want to do the pictures start again? I have all your pictures in order up here. Or do you want to tell the story about the pictures? What do you think? Okay, well, how about this?
It's going to be very unorganized.
Good. That's tell me a story about how you got started, and then when you get to the renovation part, I'll give you the clip where you go through the pictures. That's
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, everybody, Brad and John from Dingbats.
I guess I'll start since I'm the native. Hello, I'm John Dingle, founder and co-owner of Dingbats brand custom wood baseball bats. This is Brad Durazio from Middleton.
I live in Verona.
Yes, co-owner of Dingbat as well. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces. I've got family here. I got my brothers. I saw my brother here somewhere. There he is in the back. I've got three older brothers. Like the picture shows up here. We're a hockey family. So baseball was kind of always a passion of mine, even though the family didn't really play it that much. But I guess a little bit about me. Again, I'm a Verona native. Our family moved here when I was 6 months old in 1976. My mom still lives in the house we grew up in on Schweitzer Drive over here. Boy, where do I start? Graduated in '94. We're a hockey family. Played hockey in the winters. Summertime, I did play Little League and like Babe Ruth and Verona Legion ball. Kind of growing up, I did play high school my freshman and sophomore year, but then I changed to golf. Golf was kind of a passion of mine, and I knew that was something I wanted to pursue after high school. I went on to University of Wisconsin La Crosse, got a sports management degree, and then from there became a golf professional, where I taught golf for about 12 years, various golf courses here in the area. And meanwhile, baseball was kind of always a passion of mine, and in the background, loved the Brewers, always pretty much watch every game on TV. Get a little feedback here. basically the story goes, I was actually working at Vitens as a golf professional, and a childhood friend of mine came to use the batting cages, and he approached me about possibly playing in a amateur men's baseball league, and I was like, well, gosh, I haven't played baseball in 15 years. I guess I'd love to try. I don't know how good I'm going to be. And he said, well, the only catch is it's a wood baseball bat league. So I'm like, okay. I guess I will. That's kind of the start of how Dingbat kind of started in my head, and how I would kind of go forward from there. I'm going to actually go backwards now and talk about my grandfather, which kind of planted the seed for all of this. So my grandfather, Roy Dingle, he owned and operated a apple orchard in Richland Center. And growing up, our family would go up on weekends and holidays and probably long summer trips, and we would go up and visit my grandparents. And one of Grandpa Roy's passions was to work with wood. He did a lot of hand carving. He had a wood lathe where he would make wood bowls and platters and stuff like that. And he wasn't much of a sportsman, but he knew his grandchildren were, and he thought, well, I'll make a baseball bat and give it to the grandchildren, and let them play with it. And so that was kind of the seed. So we would use these bats, and unfortunately, most of the wood that he had was apple wood. Well, apple wood isn't the best wood to make baseball bats out of. And so you can see apple trees aren't very straight, and they have a lot of knots in them. But he would make these baseball bats for us, and as kids we would of course test them out, and they wouldn't last very long. I would say probably about 20 to 50 hits they would crack and break, and Grandpa would just make us more. So this is actually the last surviving bat that I know of. Mom had it hidden in the closet at home, and I'm glad I found it. So this is the last surviving baseball bat that my grandfather made. So after he passed away, I decided to buy a wood lathe and just teach myself how to use it. I thought his passion was very neat. My father did a lot of woodworking. My brother Mark, who's here, he does a lot of woodworking, and so it's kind of a thing that our family does as well. And so I decided I was going to buy a lathe and just figure out how to use it. And baseball bats really weren't on my mind at that time. I just wanted to turn like bowls and platters and stuff like he did, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I started a young family. I had two young boys, and at that time I was doing this. Again, baseball wasn't really on my mind. Then we'll fast forward to the friend of mine who wanted me to play baseball with him, and so I had the lathe, and I'm like, well, I'll make myself a baseball bat. And pretty much right then and there, I already came up with a name, Dingbat, which again, last name of Dingle. It just kind of automatically popped up in my head. And I told myself I was going to make a baseball bat, and one for my friend who just got me started and back to playing baseball. And I started playing in this amateur men's baseball league here in Madison, and next thing you know, I'm making bats for the team, and I'm making bats for the league. And so it just kind of blew up. I was making all of these in my basement, a little probably 10 by 10 area in my basement. And I was, for probably, I would say for a long time, making maybe 50 bats a year, maybe, depending on breakage, of course. So I started this back in '09, I believe. So for a long time, just kind of using it as a hobby. It was an official LLC, just for liability issues, in case somebody got hurt, they couldn't attack me or take my personally. So I did build an LLC. So kind of a fledgling hobby, so to speak, for many years. And then I would say, 6 years ago? So Brad and I were hockey dads. That's how we met. So our kids played hockey together for several years, and Brad is the Verona varsity head coach, baseball head coach. And yes, and so it was just a match made in heaven. We talked about cahoots earlier. That's where we met, is at cahoots after a game or something or whatnot. And so we just hit it off, started talking, and I actually made him a couple of Coach's Fungo bats, and then that kind of just started the relationship. And so he knew I was doing this, and I had a couple wish list items, which is funny how this whole thing started. But I complained to him how I needed a laser engraver, because before, when I was making bats, I just used stickers to kind of, put people's names and stuff on the bats. So I told him I really needed a laser engraver to really kind of legitimize, making baseball bats. And he called me out of the blue one day, and he was like, "I got a business proposal for you. I really want to get to that laser engraver." So he was like, "How about we join forces and we'll really get the kind of dingbat off the ground here." So that's kind of how we partnered up to start Dingbat, and then so we continue to make baseball bats out of my basement, and we were making, of course, a lot of dust, and we, since it was in the basement next to our mechanical room in the house, we were having a lot of mechanical issues. I think I broke the water heater several times because of dust just collecting in the water heater, and my wife Carrie was tired of us making dust everywhere. She would pick up a wood chip off the floor and she'd hand it to me and be like, "This is yours." So Carrie was getting pretty tired of us weekend after weekend after weekend making baseball bats and making a mess of the house. And then the funny story about the building was, actually my family was going up to a hockey tournament. I believe it was early December, and I noticed that the for sale sign was on the Quonset hut, and I always knew about the Quonset hut. Growing up in Verona, I always knew it was there, and it had, classic cars, I believe, stored in there forever. Got to peek through the windows as a kid, and so I always kind of knew it was there. And when I saw the for sale sign was up, I knew automatically that we were going to buy it, and that was going to be the new home of Dingbat. I had a feeling that was going to be our future. So sure enough, we traveled up to this hockey tournament, and I called Brad right away, and I'm like, "Hey, let's throw an offer at this thing right away. I don't want to lose this. Let's really make this happen." And Brad's got the business savvy just to really attack this, and he got on the horn and made some phone calls, and he threw an offer at it, and the family who owned it really wanted to get out of it and underneath it, and so it just, the whole deal kind of really came quickly. And next thing we know, we own this Quonset hut. It was, we'll see pictures, but obviously it was a mess. It needed a lot of work. So I don't know, Brad, you want to take it from here and kind of talk a little bit about the shed and?
Yeah, if you want to put up some of the pictures, they were.
Brad? The bottom one goes forward. You grew up in Milton, right?
Yes, I grew up in
What
Milton.
sports did you play?
Baseball and basketball.
So you were a baseball guy right
Yep.
from the start?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And that's actually John's lovely wife too. They've been together forever, so. Yeah. And she was very, very patient with us when we were in the basement. So I guess, yeah, that's the building as it stands now, which is way different than it was previously. So this is what it looked like when we walked through, and like John said, he was up north and called me, and I walked through it with the realtor, and I still don't really know what we were thinking, because if you think this looks bad, it got even worse after we bought it. So they had a restroom right here. It's like a little 4x4 restroom. There was a couple barrels of oil and things like that. We actually got other pictures we got. So that was, yeah, it was pretty bad. There was multiple families of raccoons living in there, birds, other rodents. So all that stuff had to come down, and essentially we were just left with the bones of it, with the skeleton of the building. In here, this was, there's a little room off to the side, so when you go by, there's a little 10x10 room, and that's where the heater was. There was asbestos boards in there, so we had to pay to get those removed. And then, in his infinite wisdom, the asbestos guy was like, we'll test the glaze on the windows. And they also had asbestos in it, so there were a lot of unforeseen costs that we hadn't initially factored in, but got rid of all the asbestos. And so that's also what it looked like from the outside. So there's not great pictures of it, but those trees, the roots had actually grown into the building. And so like when you walked into the building on the floor, there were tree roots, especially in the bathroom.
That's how the raccoons got it.
Yep.
So there's a big limb right here that crashed down. You can kind of see right here, there's a huge hole in the roof. And so the raccoons just kind of climbed up and went right in.
Yeah. And so then we got the dumpster out there, and I still can't, I mean, the building doesn't even look the same. So, it was definitely an eyesore. And then it had that old garage door there. And then, in addition to being a great woodworker, John's brother did some designs for us and actually designed the front of it. So we've got a nice glass garage door that looked really awesome when he designed it, so we decided to do that. So we tried to keep this old light fixture. We had it rewired and painted and actually got to keep that, so that's still on the building. So we tried to keep as much stuff as we could, but there really wasn't much inside, other than animals. So then once we got it all stripped down, this is what the inside of it looks like. It's a pretty simple building, but the fact of when it was built and, right here in Madison, and knowing the Trochty story and reading all of that, was pretty cool that we were able to save the building. But again, like, everything was structurally sound and looked good. So this was when we first kind of got it going. Started to get it studded out. So basically we had to re-stud everything out and start from scratch with it. So we removed the old garage door, had a temporary door put up to block the big hole. So again, that's kind of what it looked like as we got rolling. And then we put in new windows, which really, I think, changed the whole look of the building. Putting those brand new windows on there made it look really good. And then we just put a coat of paint on the outside as well.
Yeah, we wanted to keep the same kind of look that it had before, so it's just kind of like a light gray. I'm sure it changed colors through the years, but we wanted to keep it as what it was prior to us getting the building.
And we used all the trades to sub out stuff like Rockweiler did the insulation, Brandon Cooper did all our plumbing work. So it was starting to come together, and then after we got that first coat of paint on there, I thought it really changed the way the whole thing looked. And then the glass garage door, thought everything, you know, kind of really brought it all together.
How long did it since you did the renovation?
We closed on it like January 1st,
What year?
2020.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, great time. But actually, when everything was shut down, it kind of gave us something to do. We could just go hang out at the shed. And John and I spent a lot of time on the roof, because it's all metal, so we had to patch a ton of it. There was holes all over the place and water coming in, so it's watertight.
Amateur roofers.
Absolutely.
That's the last one.
Oh, sorry, I didn't answer your question. I'd say that we were done.
Like 6 months, maybe?
Yeah, June, I would say, yeah. We were able to start making bats in there by then, and John and I did a lot of the work ourselves, so we would just kind of do it on the weekends and things like that, and like the electrician, John knew, so he would also come on the weekends, and it was nice, we didn't really have like a rush to get it done at any point, so I'm sure it could have been done a lot sooner, but.
Did the cars belong to the family that owned it?
The cars did belong to the family. Like some of the neighbors had said that a month or two before they had actually used a wrecker to like take them out. So the building's not that big, but I think they'd said there's 11 cars in there. But they had all been eaten up by the raccoons and things, like inside out. And so I think they had said that a person bought them and the whole lot and was probably just going to use them for parts. So.
Okay. I was with Jesse when he first looked at it, and it was like, oh my gosh. He didn't know what else to say, it was just awful.
Yes, sir. The Richardson family. So I think Ralph was the father, and they had owned the A&W root beer that used to be where the bank is. And so I think the kids owned it at that point in time. Yeah. Was that? Oh. Yeah, it was. So we've kept a lot of stuff, like the floor is insane. Like we scrubbed it and did stuff like that. And just thinking of all the things that have happened there previously. And you know, there's at one point a mechanic shop, so that you could tell where the oil was. And we also figured that there was probably stuff in there for horses being in there. So I don't know, it was pretty crazy. But
Was that Ford still in there when you guys bought it?
It was not, no. The forge was supposedly in this little out section here. So we actually turned this into the bathroom. So the original bathroom was in this corner, and obviously it wasn't ADA compliant. So we that probably not great to have it right next to the glass garage door. So yeah, we have this little out section here as the bathroom.
yeah, it was really fun to be involved with and doing. And like John said, we kind of outgrown the space in the basement, and so this turned out to be perfect. And now, we kind of joke that we need more room. So
Moved in, we needed more room.
yes,
Did you make baseball back then?
we did not.
What was the question?
If we made baseball bats out of that tree.
This tree here was rotten, so this would have been no good. This was I believe this tree was a walnut tree, which I guess we could have. I've made some decorative walnut bats before, but no, we did not save any.
We had enough stuff going on.
Yeah, we hated those trees.
Yes. Yeah, so just a little bit more about the company. Like John said, he was doing about 50 bats. Last year we did 350. And then we sell and people retail our bats as well now, so you can buy them directly from the website. But we sell them to Play It Again Sports, Badger Sporting Goods, Burkhart Sporting Goods here in Milwaukee, and then the Madison Mallards actually buy them and sell them in their team store. to put their logo on it and things like that. You know, the Verona hometown team uses our bats. They bought a bunch last year. A lot of the hometown teams do, in addition to what John had said with the other league that he's affiliated with. And then there's a new college league that's out in the Lake Mills area, so we partnered with them last year. We're partnering with them again this year. But every year that we've been doing this, we just keep selling more and more and more. Yeah. You can answer that one if you want. Best wood to make bats out of.
Right now, I would say, major league wise, 90% of all the bats are maple. They used to be ash, but I would say when Barry Bonds made the scene in the major leagues, he was the first one that started using maple. And then obviously, with his, you know, prowess and his, you know, breaking the home run record, just maple became, you know, super popular, and so yeah, I'd say about 90% of baseball bats are maple.
How long does it take you to make a bat?
That is a very good question. So there is a lot of.
Here's your question, just so we hear it, Mike.
What's that?
What was the question?
Question was, how long does it take us to make a bat?
Okay.
So we'll just kind of get into it. Since so this is how they come to us right here. This is called a billet. We source these out of a company from New York, and these are hand split. So what that means is they have this is hard maple. So what they do is they have the maple log, and you don't want to use the center of the log where the pith is. You want to use the outsides. And so what they do is they use a machine and they split the log. And so the idea is when they split it, that gives kind of the advantage of Mother Nature splitting it to a straight grain, which is going to make this as strong as it can be. So by splitting it, it's going to split where it's at its weakest point, and then leave you with the strongest part. And so. So that's how they make these. They hand split it and then they dowel it. It's fairly round. Sometimes they're a little oblong, but once we put them on the lathe, we get them rounded out. But so this is how they come to us. They're pretty much all the same diameter and length, but the big difference is the weight. So when they come to us on a big pallet, we'll go through them and we weigh them all. And we'll weigh them by ounces. So this is 87 ounces right here. And so what we do is we kind of have a calculation where we know when somebody orders a baseball bat, they want it a specific weight. So I don't know if people are familiar with baseball bats as far as their weight goes, but most people would want a drop 3, which means it's if it was 33, how to explain
Oh, hold on, you might cut out the right dial. Uh-oh, did the whole system shut down?
Hello, test, try it now.
Help.
You're back.
Just a
I
test.
said it wasn't close enough.
You're back. You're
Okay.
Keep going, so you're back, right?
You want to handle the drop?
Yeah, so the length to weight ratio, if the average probably adult uses a 33-inch bat, they would want it to weigh 30 ounces, so that you have a drop 3. But to get back to the question about how long it actually takes us from start to finish, from there to the end of the bat, I mean, by the time we use the chisel, get it to where it needs to be, sand it, probably about an hour.
Hour to physically make the bat, yes.
And then the painting process or the engraving would be whatever, if they wanted multiple colors, or sometimes people just wanted a natural color, so we can just put a clear finish on. But roughly, I'd say an hour per bat.
So I would say like basically start to finish, and you add all the time, I would say probably about 2.5 hours. Just from making it to painting, finishing, engraving, probably about 2.5 hours. Yes, sir.
When I was a kid, you always never wanted to hit the ball with a trademark. Is
Correct.
that still true?
That is not. So that was made when people used ash bats, because I wish I would have brought an ash blank with me. But the wood grain of ash is very different to maple. And what ash would do is the grain is very circular, and it would start to flake off over time. And obviously, once it started flaking off, the bat was pretty much done. And so they always put the trademark on the face grain of ash, and you always wanted to hit it on the straight grain. So that's why with ash, just because of that circular wood grain, you never wanted to hit it there because that would delaminate that part of the wood there. You always wanted to hit it on the straight grain. So with maple, it's totally different. It's actually the opposite now. So we will put our trademark on the face grain, and you want to hit it on the straight.
Yeah, we've got a natural one up here where you could probably see that a little better if you want to come look at that mark. But
so again, I guess going back to this, so once we weigh them, then we kind of know that, again, most adults would use a 33-inch, 30-ounce. And so we know, like, basically a 87 ounce to 90, 92 ounce blank is going to get us to that final product. So when we do get these shipped to us, we'll weigh them right away. We'll get blanks that are way too heavy for use. And so we have a lot of people that would want us to make baseball bats to just hang on the wall for decoration as trophy bats. So we'll use the heavy stock just for trophy bats. So that's kind of our process.
question in the back.
Yeah. Do you use a powered lathe, or you have to do this by hand? I mean, you know, where the machine, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah,
Like,
so-
do you have to use hand tools to do
Yeah,
it?
so the question was, do we have a automatic lathe or do we have a manual lathe? So we actually have both. We do have a manual lathe where we use the chisels and just chisel it until it's done, and then we do have an automatic CNC machine that is kind of the bane of our existence right now. That's not working. But in theory, that was really supposed to speed things up. And it is pretty cool because the consistency of it when we run it on that, it's not a finished product. We still have to put it on the manual lathe to sand it to get all the tool marks out. So it's not a completely automated process. But since that thing hasn't been working the last 6 months, we're back to all hands. So.
Yes.
What is your competition across the United States?
There are a lot of bat manufacturers. I think going forward, our goal is just to kind of, I don't know, dominate southern Wisconsin, just kind of be a local product. But there are hundreds of bat manufacturers, from little guys like us to, you know, the mainstays like Louisville Slugger and whatnot. So I don't know the exact number, but there are hundreds of bat manufacturers.
There's only a couple in Wisconsin. One's in like the Anago area called Three Brothers, or West Salem area. But for the most part, I think we're really the only one in this area.
Not too hard to do with southern Wisconsin.
How much do your bats sell for? Are they all different prices?
Yeah, so we've, so like John was saying earlier, some of the lengths that we can get, the shorter the length, the less expensive the bat. So if a kid wants one, and that's a shorter bat, we can obviously use a shorter blank. So I think we're on our website now, like a youth bat, it's $85, and an adult bat is $115. But if it's that trophy idea, if you wanted one for a business, some of the ones that are a little too heavy, I think we're doing for $95, which sounds like an insane amount of money. But you go to Dick's Sporting Goods, and their wood bats are between $150 and $175, and so it's yeah, I think that we're pretty reasonable. And then we work with teams where they, you know, when they buy multiples or whatever, we give them team discounts or whatnot.
Ken Simmons. I grew up across the street from the hut there. and I can still hear my mother yelling at me not to look inside there because I'll go blind. which I did anyway. So, but can you tell them the graphite bats that a lot of youth programs and a lot of the adult programs use as opposed to wood bats, what those costs are?
Oh, gosh. I mean, so like with coaching a high school baseball team, our kids are routinely spending between $350 and $450 for a bat, for an aluminum baseball bat right now. It's pretty crazy. Probably a lot of the technology and the different stuff they're using, and the fact that people are still willing to continue to pay it, I'm sure is probably another thing. But they're really expensive. You can definitely get some for the $200 range, but all my guys, the latest and greatest, that's what they're paying. So,
what's your plan down the road? What's your business plan?
Keep paying our bills.
yeah. So I think like this has been our little hobby deal that grew into way more than just the hobby. So my first goal is to be able to get John to do this as his full-time job, because the more that time that he's able to spend there, the more things he comes up with. So so he used our laser engraver to do different signs and things like that, and so we sell a lot of different products in addition to just baseball bats. When we do a lot of gifts for hockey coaches, like people give us their old broken sticks and we'll cut them up, and John will design signs and things like that. So that, I would say, is part of the business plan. But then the other piece has been like, so this Burkhart Sporting Goods was our biggest land so far. They're very large. They're technically in, I forget what city, but right, New Berlin technically. But I think us being able to get more visible through the Mallards, and then other retail outlets has been great. And then the word of mouth thing has just been fantastic. Each year it seems like we get more and more home talent teams. I think there's like 40 some odd home talent teams, and I think the last time I counted, we've sold to at least 28 of them. So, so again, just continuing to do that. But the more time that we put into it, the more rewards we get out of it. It's just the whole time thing and having a real job that's killing us.
We both have real jobs, so it's you'll see us. If you ever drive by and you want to come take a look, we're pretty much here on the weekends.
What are your real jobs? Just curious. What do you guys do outside of it?
So I'm I work for a property management company downtown Madison. So I manage a couple high-rise buildings downtown.
My wife and I own an outpatient mental health clinic in Madison, so we've got employees, and then I'm an attorney as well. So, and then I make bets. Right?
Plus coach.
That's right, yeah, coach. That's where the real money is coaching high school.
Oh, back on the building again, there was always like a cement loading dock on the right side, and then there was like double doors there. Did you turn that into something?
Yeah, so there's still the double doors still exist. We actually have on order a new set, because I think those were like interior rated, so they're just rusted and not working real well. So obviously with the supply chain right now being difficult, it's been on order for a while. And then that loading dock is still there. And so there's a fence that goes, so actually got a call from Mr. Clinky one day. And so he owns the building that's got Clinky Cleaners in it. And so it was if you look as to where, I guess the city made them put a fence up, and then it stops at some point. Well, part of our cement little loading dock is actually on their property. And so, he just called and said, hey, just so you know, I'm not forfeiting that land to you. There's a concept in the law, right, where if someone uses property for a certain amount of time, they can actually claim it as their own. So he's like, I'm just asserting that we're not doing that. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. He's like, I don't need you to do anything. You don't have to move anything with it. But actually part of it hangs on to the other property, but it's still there.
Good. And then I wanted to mention too, a friend of mine, I think Kenny might have grabbed, Dale Bigler was in that, and he had a welding shop in there for a while, like maybe late 70s, early 80s.
So you can see where the welder was set up, and there's still like the metal post from where that thing was, and so you can just see in the concrete's amazing, like all the different things that have went on in there. Yeah.
Back to your baseball coaching. Just kind of, because I've heard all kinds of rumors about the new facility. Are the fences at the new high school field shorter than they're supposed to be?
Yes. That's the short answer. There's not a, like, unlike basketball or football where there's a regulation as to the length of what a competition field has to be. That doesn't exist for baseball. And for those of you who've ever been to a baseball game, especially in home talent, you can see there's different designs with fences, and some don't even have a fence. So they are a little short for what I would like to have, but they would be the shortest in our conference. And so I did point that out to the architects. I got to meet with them one time prior to the building of it, and I pointed that out and 3 other things. And they said, oh, that's really great. We're really happy you pointed that out to us. And then they threw all those ideas away and went back to whatever they were going to do. So at the end of the day, it's not the worst thing in the world because we play at Stoutful Field, the varsity does, which is a fantastic field. But then right now, we've got 80 kids signed up to play high school baseball. So we started a 4th team this year. And so those 3 teams will be able to utilize those 2 fields. Whereas, having 4 teams to only utilize 2 fields would be very difficult. We probably wouldn't have been able to field a 4th team. So I guess it works out okay. But yeah, that was unfortunately, like I said, a little short for my liking, but I guess they could either be shorter or longer. You could still play on them. But I think for the conference that we're in, there would have been a lot of home runs. So. No patent, so that's part of what I do as an attorney is some intellectual property law, so we don't have a patent on them. I don't think that we'd be able to get one just because they've been around so long and there's not a whole lot of new technology. But if you also mean maybe a trademark on our logo or things like that, we haven't trademarked that either yet. So.
We have to clap louder than usual this time, because we want to thank you guys for coming today and giving us this awesome presentation, but also for saving this arguably semi-iconic structure in Verona. Don't you kind of wish there was like more of this? Like happening? Someone who's not just going to be like, oh, new thing. So thank you guys both for being here today and for saving this building.
I've been hoping on Monday